You're listening to a message presented at Green Bay First. More information about Green Bay First can be found online at www.greenbayfirst.net. May God draw you closer to Him as you listen.
Good to be here with you today. I'm excited that you're here with us at Green Bay First. I'm Pastor Jake. If you don't know me, I'm the lead pastor here, and I'm the main speaker in our English service. In this service, if you didn't know this already, we have a Spanish service at our church at Green Bay First that happens simultaneously to this one. So I used that word correctly, right? Simultaneously to this one. You got what I meant. So 10 a.m., it's happening on the other side of the building. And so if you have friends or family or neighbors that speak Spanish, you can just invite them to our church as well and just make sure they get over to the Spanish service. And so that's going on at the same time. But I'm usually in here because, let's change that. I'm always in here because I don't speak Spanish, and that doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon, no matter how hard I pray about it, okay? So it is the second Sunday in September. We're past Labor Day, so officially we are in back to church season, right? Everybody just kind of disappears. Not everybody, the faithful few stick around. Other than that, the ones who Jesus really loves, they stick around. Other than that, people leave, and they're not here, and they're at the cabin. And some of you, I literally have not seen you. I'm looking around. Some of you, literally, I have not seen you in 3 months. And so you're just like, God, you must have an awesome cabin, all right? I don't know. Could you invite me sometime? Because I'll come with you. All right, but we're back. It's September. Don't be sad that it's September, because with September comes what? Football season is what I was going to say, but fall works too. No, I'm just kidding. But there's some great things going on, and I know that here in this area of the country, we kind of mourn the passing of summer, but don't mourn the passing of summer because we have some great things planned for you here at Green Bay First for the fall. And I believe we've been growing throughout the summer, both numerically and spiritually. So even though some of you I haven't seen in 3 months, we grew without you, okay? It still happened even though you weren't here. You probably didn't think that was possible, but it was. That was a joke. This is a joke. Too harsh? Too harsh? Okay. All right. Just a little shame. Just take it. We had some great things go on this summer, but I believe, let me ask you if you believe this too, I believe that the best is yet to come for Green Bay First. Do you believe that? I really believe that. I believe that God has amazing things in store for us to do in us and to do through us as we reach out to our community and to our world. And so I really believe that this fall is going to be awesome, and I want to invite you to believe that with me, pray that direction with me, and just to show up. I just want to invite you to make it challenge you, to make a commitment that, man, I'm going to be here. I'm just going to be here. It's not going to be Sunday morning, should we go to church? It's going to be like, I'm already decided. I'm going to be here no matter what. I don't wake up on Sunday morning and ask my 8-year-old son, if we should go to church, if he wants to go to church. Why is your 8-year-old on the throne of your life, right? No, we're just going to decide right now that we're going to go to church. I'm going to get my family in church. If I think I'm going to go out of town on a weekend, I'm going to get back for church because it's important, right? If one member of my 37-member family is sick, 36 of us are coming to church, right? I'm still going to be here. If I get invited out to party on Saturday night really late, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm not going to go because I want to be my best at church on Sunday morning. That's a different kind of a paradigm to live by, right? But I just want to challenge you, man. Just make a commitment. It doesn't matter what happens. Unless I'm in the hospital or I have to work, I'm going to always be here on Sunday. And I'm going to try to be here at 10 o'clock. Some of you think we start at 10:30. It's okay. You guys can come whenever you want, all right? But I would love for you to be here at 10, and we can worship together. And if you follow through with that commitment, I really believe that God is going to do something amazing in your lives. How many of you have already made that commitment and God has done something in your life because you're here every week? Anybody? I'm here every week. Okay, I have to be. All right. I'm excited you're here, excited about what God is going to do in and through us throughout this year. I'm also pumped that we get to start a new 3-week series today, a mini-series. It's called Now. and it's on the Old Testament book of Haggai. And so there are a lot of prophetic books in the Old Testament, books like Micah, Jeremiah, Isaiah, Habakkuk, Malachi. These are all prophetic books, and they're divided into two groups. And they're divided into major prophets and minor prophets, okay? Major prophets and minor prophets. Haggai was a minor prophet. Everybody say, poor Haggai. He didn't make it to the majors. He just didn't make it. No, that's not why that's divided that way. The two groups are really based on just length and maybe content. And so the major prophets are generally longer and broader in their content, and the minor prophets are shorter and more narrow in their content. And so Haggai is a minor prophet, and if you want to turn there, grab your Bible, head to Haggai. Some of you are like sweating right now. You're like, this is going to be embarrassing. I can't possibly find Haggai. Just use the table of contents, all right? Just shirk the pride and use the table of contents. But if it helps you at all, it is right between Zephaniah and Zechariah. Does that help? You guys are always there. You might need to use the table of contents today. If you don't have a Bible, grab the Bible at the end of your row there. Use that today. If you don't own a Bible, just take that home with you. That's our gift to you. Also, you can grab your iPhone or your smartphone, I should say. Some people who hate iPhones are like, oh, I can't believe he just totally got rid of all the Androids, but they're not real phones anyways. But anyways, smartphone, your tablet, go to YouVersion Bible app, and you can follow along there. Just hit live or something like that, and you can follow along, get all our scriptures and our points on that app. Before we get into the text itself, have you ever woken up one day in your life and just kind of looked at your life and thought, man, by this time, I really expected more. I really thought I'd be farther along by this time. I thought by the time that I reached this, whatever it is, this stage, that there'd be something different or something better. And I'm surprised that I'm still back here. I'm surprised that I'm not up there. It could happen really at any stage. You don't even have to wait until you're older, right? Like it could be that you're in college and you think, man, by this time in college, I thought I would know what I wanted to do with my life, and I thought I would have a clue, and I just don't. I thought I would be farther along than I am. It might be that you're out of college and you got a degree and you think, man, since I've got a degree, I really thought that by this time I'd be having like a real job with real benefits and all of this and using what I learned in college, and I'm just not there yet, and I'm not where I want to be. I thought there'd be more by this time. It might be that you're at such and such age and you just go, man, I really thought I'd be married by this time. Or you are married and you're going, man, I thought I'd have a better marriage. I thought it'd be better. You don't really like your marriage the way that you should. And then you thought, well, we'll have kids and that'll fill the void that I'm missing in my marriage, and that'll give us what we're looking for in life. And now you have kids and you're simply just busy, broke, and feeling like there's some void, right? You're thinking, I thought there would be more. I thought there would be something more by this time. You're looking at your life and you're going, I thought it'd be farther along. Anybody ever been there? I have. I know some people who would say, man, I'm just going to try, at that moment in their life, I'm just going to try religion. I'm going to try religion. And so we try the religious thing, and and then life doesn't really change, and we wake up and we think, man, I really thought that by this point with God there'd be something more, something better, something different. And this is kind of the mood that the book of Haggai is written into. The people were saying, I really, really thought that there'd be something different going on. I really thought we'd be farther along than we are right now. Let me give you a backstory so that we can understand what happens in this book within its own context. We just finished a 4-week series on the book of Habakkuk called Unfair God, and we finished that last week. If you missed it, grab the podcast off of iTunes or go to our website. But Haggai happens after Habakkuk. Everybody say Haggai happens after Habakkuk. That could have been a tongue twister, but you guys did great. I can't even say the word great, so About 70 years after, but I need to take you farther back than that. So to the reign of King Solomon. So during the 4th year of the reign of King Solomon, King Solomon started the construction of the most magnificent temple that had ever been built to that point. And so it was this awesome temple for God. This temple was more glorious than you could ever imagine. People came from all over the world to worship God at this temple, to see what King Solomon had accomplished in the building of this temple. It was amazing. But after King Solomon died, the people's hearts, they turned away from God. They got distracted, like many of us do sometimes, and they began to worship idols. They began to worship false gods. And because of this, God allowed a series of events to take place in order to pull the people and their hearts back to himself. 3 quick high points that I want you to know about, and they'll be on the screen. In 587 BC, King Nebuchadnezzar and his army crushed the southern kingdom of Judah, destroying the temple. So this is more than just conquering a city, okay? They destroyed the house where God dwelt, stripping away the spiritual identity of the entire Jewish people. And so this is a big deal. They were just devastated. And then the Jews were taken into captivity for decades, 70 years in all. And that's what Habakkuk was about, right? We kind of walked through that the last 4 weeks. God was telling Habakkuk that he was about to use the Babylonians to destroy Judah, to take all the people in captivity, and he had some problems with that. And maybe when you read that or you hear that, you go, okay, yeah, the Jews were taken into captivity, they were taken captive, and you just kind of move on, and you're like, yeah, so that happened. But let me give you kind of an idea about how this would have been. Let me try to bring it to a modern context. Like, imagine this. Some enemy nation, enemies of the United States, this nation develops some nuclear technology and starts to threaten the United States of America. And they say, and it's a nuclear technology that we have no defense against. And they call our government and they say to our government, if you don't surrender to us, then we are going to destroy the 5 most major cities, the largest cities in your nation. And then we're going to start destroying the largest cities and the capitals of the nations who say they are your allies. And we're going to start doing this systematically, and there's no way you can stop us unless you surrender to us. And so say this is happening, and the president meets with the Joint Chiefs, and they decide, man, we don't have anything to do. If we start launching off our nuclear arsenal, the whole world is going to die, and so we're not going to do this. And so they decide, the leaders of our country decide to give over to this enemy nation's demands. And all of a sudden, all of the leaders of our government step down, and we're all no longer citizens of our nation. Now we're captives to somebody else. We can't worship as we want. We can't go anywhere we want. We're completely in bondage. And it doesn't last a week or a month or a year or even 10 years. It lasts 70 years. Now, I'm not 70. I don't know if you guys knew that. I'm not 70. So that means my kids would have been born in this bondage. They would have known no other world except for this, right? They would have only known captivity. That's what's going on here. If you can put yourself in their minds, in the Jewish people's minds, this is our worst nightmare come true, and it just doesn't end. It just doesn't end. But the captivity does eventually end, because in 538 BC, about 50,000 people, Jews, are allowed to travel back to Jerusalem, the capital of Judah, to rebuild. So finally, after 7 decades, we get to go back to our home. We get to build a house for God. We get to have our own place again. And you could just imagine the relief and the excitement, right? Like, yes, now we get to go. I don't even remember it. I wasn't alive then, but my parents told me about it, and we get to go back home, and we get to go build the temple, and we get to go build the city. And there's this excitement, and there's this awesome feeling going on, this nationalistic feeling as they head back to Jerusalem to build the the temple to build the city. And they start to rebuild the temple of God, and this is going to be awesome. And they build the foundation, and they build the altar. And then their neighbors, the Samaritans, come out against them, and there's this opposition, and they don't want them to build the temple. And all of a sudden, these people who have come from captivity, 50,000 people who have come from captivity to rebuild the temple, all of a sudden, they face this opposition, and they just go, oh, no. It's too hard. I'm not going to do it. Too much opposition. It's just too difficult. I'm just not going to do it. It must not be the right time because it's not easy for us to do this. And so they quit. And for the next 14 years, people didn't work on the temple. For 7 decades, it's all they thought about was getting back. And when it got difficult, for 14 years, they put the project on hold. And instead of working on God's house, guess what they did? They actually started working on their own houses. They built their own house, and they built very, very nice houses for themselves, and they forgot about God's house. And so what God did is that he raised up this prophet named Haggai to call the people back to rebuild the temple for God. Does that make sense? Everybody with me so far? Everybody say that makes sense. The rest of you, if you didn't say that and you're confused, we're just going to move on, okay? All right, we're just going to move on. If you want to study more about this whole thing that I just ran through really fast, just read Jeremiah or Habakkuk, then read 2 Kings 24, write this down if you want, Daniel, 2 Chronicles 36, Ezra, and Nehemiah. Just that. That's all you have to read. Okay, it's on the screen. You can write it down if you want. Is it on the screen? It really is on the screen. Sweet. We're going to dive into the first few verses of Haggai 1. Haggai's writing this in the fall of 520 BC. So we're entering right now the fall of 2016 AD, right? So this is the 2536th anniversary of what Haggai wrote. You didn't know it was such an auspicious day, did you? You didn't know that. So this is that. Now, it's not today, but it's the fall. And so this is 2,536 years later. So let me ask you a question. Do you think it's possible that something that was written 2,536 years ago could possibly have the potential to be relevant in yours and my life? Do you think it could be relevant? We'll see, okay? We'll see. Haggai 1:1, let's look at it. It starts off in kind of a funny way in verse 2, but let's start with verse 1. In the second year of Darius the king, in the 6th month, on the first day of the month, the word of the Lord came by the hand of Haggai the prophet to Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua, the son of Jehozadak, the high priest. So Zerubbabel and Joshua are the leaders that God has chosen to help rebuild, okay? So that's all you need to know about them. They're the leaders. Verse 2, thus says the Lord of hosts, these people say the time has not yet come to rebuild the house of the Lord. These people say that the time has not yet come to rebuild the house of the Lord. The reason I think this is funny is because almost everywhere in the Old Testament, when God talks about the Jewish people, he says, my people, right? My people, my people. But this time he goes, these people, they say it's not time. These people. I can relate to this because my wife does the same thing with our kids. You guys ever had that? Like your wife or maybe your husband does this, like when they do something wrong. I don't know if this happens in your house, but when our kids do something wrong, all of a sudden they're my kids, right? My wife's like, your kids, your daughter, all right, your son. She's like, your daughter thought it was a good idea to catch a bunch of bugs outside and free them inside. She thought that was a great idea. Your son is on the roof. You better go get him. All right, that's kind of the way it is. Your daughter, your son. I'm like, man, if memory serves me right, you were there when these kids were created, right? You were there when they were created. We both were there. I remember that you were there. I'm just saying it takes two to tango, right? I'm just saying. Is it okay to say that in church? Doesn't matter. I already said it. God's going, these people, they're not my people. These people are saying the time has not yet come to rebuild the people, rebuild the temple. These people, the time is not now. That's what they're saying. Now, why did they think that the time wasn't now? They thought the time wasn't now because they experienced serious opposition, right? The Samaritans were opposing them. I mean, if it's God's timing, then it should just kind of happen with no trouble, right? I mean, that's what it means. When it's God's timing, it's just going to happen on its own. And we're the same way. I mean, a lot of times, whenever we receive opposition, we think it must not be God's will that we do this thing. We say things like, if it's God's will, then it'll happen in His what? Timing. And while the words of that statement are true on the surface, a lot of times our meaning is not. Because what do we actually mean by that? What we mean is, I'm just going to stop doing this thing because it's difficult. And if God wants me to do it, He'll have to make it easy. That's how I'll know it's God's will, if it's easy. But what we need to understand is that the closer we get to doing something that matters to the heart of God, the more likely we are to face opposition, right? How many of you guys have faced opposition when you started to do something God wanted you to do? I have. Listen, beloved, receiving opposition isn't a sign that God is against you. A lot of times it's a sign that you're doing what God wants you to do. I don't really worry when people are opposing me. I worry when no one is. Because if I'm not experiencing some opposition, I'm probably not doing much for the glory of God, am I? The moment you start to move forward and you do something and be obedient to what God has called you to do, mark it down. There's very likely spiritual opposition on the way. I want to encourage you with this one simple thought. It's our main point for this sermon. It won't be easy, but I really believe it's true. Write this down if you're taking notes. Choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Over and over and over again, just tell God, God, with your help, empower me to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. It would be so easy to quit focusing on God and start focusing on myself. It would be hard and right to continue building the temple, right? Choose the hard right over the easy wrong. It would be so easy when someone hurts your feelings to hold a grudge, to be angry at them, but it's hard and it's right to forgive others as Christ has forgiven you, right? It's easy to continue to spend more than you have and just buy whatever you want and to go into debt, but it's hard and it's right to begin to climb out of debt, live beneath your means, and live in such a way that you can be massively generous towards God's mission on the earth, right? It's so easy to give up. It's so easy not to make a difference. But we, as followers of Jesus, with the help of God, we're going to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. This is what the prophet is going to help empower the people to do. He essentially tells them that the time has come. You say it hasn't come, but I'm telling you, it has come. It's now. Now is the time. Now. So just take a second and just ask yourself, is there some unfinished business, some unfinished assignment in my life? Is there something in your life, or maybe multiple things, that you gave up on because now you're looking back at it and it was because it got difficult, but you know for a fact, looking back, that God did tell you to do that, but you gave up because it got too hard? Think about that a second, and then I want you to listen to the rest of this message through the lens of what might be an unfinished assignment for you. So just think back. It could have been yesterday. It could have been a month ago. It could have been 14 years ago, where you believe God put something on your heart. I'm supposed to reach out to this person and share my faith with them, but that would be embarrassing. It would be hard, and it would be difficult, and I don't know what I'm supposed to say. And so you chose the easy way out. I'm supposed to really work on honoring God with my body and getting into shape, but it was so hard and you just gave up. I felt like I was supposed to serve somewhere in the church. I was supposed to start a ministry. I was supposed to ask her out, but I chickened out. I was supposed to give something away to somebody. There was something that I felt like I was supposed to do. I was supposed to start writing a book. Man, I don't know what it is, but there's something on your heart that you really felt it was a burden, most likely from God, but you didn't do it. You didn't do it. Think about that a moment, and if God shows you something, I want you to listen to the rest of the message with what might be that unfinished assignment in mind. For many of you, God may speak to you. God may speak to you in the very same way he spoke to the people during the time of Haggai. And he may tell you today, now is the time to finally step out and finish that thing. Now is the time to do what I'm asking you to do. Now's the time. You're saying it's not, but it's now. Let's read on in verse 3 through 5. Haggai chapter 1, verse 3. It says this, "Then the word of the Lord came by the hand of Haggai the prophet. Is it a time for you yourselves to dwell in your paneled houses while this house, my house, lies in ruins?" Verse 5. "Now therefore, thus says the Lord of hosts, consider your ways." Consider your ways. God says that, and he's going to say that a few times in our passage today. Consider your ways. Give careful thought. He goes, think about how you're living. Is it time to live in these paneled houses while my house lies in ruins? And you might be going like, paneled houses? What's a paneled house? Well, as I read commentaries about this passage this week and last week, what I found was that paneled houses was basically a way to say high-end living, okay? It was a way to say high-end living. And so they were living in these high-end houses that they hadn't spared an expense on. And so in our time, it's like you got the granite countertops, you got the crown molding, you got the best TV you could get at Best Buy, you've got all this stuff, and God is not against us having nice things, is he? He's not against us having nice things. We can have nice things. He just doesn't want nice things to have us, right? He just doesn't want nice things to have us. He doesn't want us to put nice things above God, above him. And so, let me be clear, it's not okay to neglect God's house while you add to yours. It's just not. God's going, okay, you say it's not time to build my house. Well, what time is it really? What is supposed to be going on right now? What is the time for? Is it time for you to live in luxury while my house is in ruins? Is that the time it is? So at this point, the people are putting their own comfort ahead of God's house and God's priority. And he says, consider your ways. Think about it. Think about it. And so I would just challenge you to do that. As you think about an unfinished assignment, ask yourself, am I putting my comfort ahead of God's calling on my life? Am I putting my comfort ahead of God's calling? Are you trying to make a name more than you're trying to make a difference? Are you putting your house before his house? Are you consumed with yourself instead of being consumed with God and showing his love to other people? Is there something that you're putting ahead of God? Consider your ways. God wants us to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. I'll give you an example from my life. When Kennedy, my daughter who is 7 and about to be 8 and going into second grade now, when she was younger, we used to always go on daddy date every week. And so we would go daddy date, just me and her, every week, and we would just chat, and we would just have this kind of time just one-on-one. And so we would do that. And so even through pre-K and even kindergarten, I think, because we used to do it on Fridays, and she didn't go to school on Fridays. And so I did this daddy date on Friday for like ever. And we always had this daddy date. And it was always easy. We did it on Fridays, and it was easy. Well, when she got into first grade, she started going to school on Fridays, and it became not so easy to find a time for us to do daddy date. And so we stopped doing daddy date. And after a while, she started asking me about it. Like, hey, when are we going to do daddy date again? I love doing daddy date. Can you take me out? And can we start doing that? Can we do that again? And I'd be like, sure, we can do that sometime. I'll look at it, And sure, we can do that. But it was more difficult now. I had to do it in the morning before school, before her school, to make it work, and it was easier just not to do it, even though I knew I needed to do it, even though I knew I needed to stay engaged in the life of my daughter, and I knew God wanted me to do this. And you might think, man, you're a pastor. You should be like, God tells you to do something, and the next minute you do it. Isn't that the way pastoring works? You should just be doing it, and you're supposed to be a good dad, and why didn't you? I know, but I didn't do it. And my sweet daughter just kept asking me to, and I just didn't make it happen. And I thought, man, I spend a lot of time with her already, with all the other kids. We got 3 kids now, and it's busy, and things are tough. And and then in the mornings, it's really hard because I go to these fire stations 3 days a week, and I got to be there at 7. I'm a fire chaplain, and it's just hard to find a time. What am I going to do with her during that time if I take her out to breakfast? And how is this all going to happen? I'm tired, and it's just difficult. I just can't. Some of you right now, there'll be something in your life where you know you're supposed to do it. God's calling you to do it. And like me, you're taking the easy wrong when God would say, hey, choose the hard right. Now's the time. I want to show you some verses that are just mind-blowing to me because they show that in 2,536 years, not a lot has changed in the way people think and the way people act apart from God. I mean, you may wonder if this book written so long ago could possibly have anything to do with these people that are reading it, the people of Israel that are reading this. Could they possibly, or hearing it from Haggai, could they possibly be anything like us in this modern world that's so different than them? How could it possibly be relevant? Well, this is what God says, and I guarantee you there are many of you here who will say, I feel exactly like this. I feel exactly like this. Look at verse 6. God says, you have sown much and harvested little. You eat, but you never have enough. You drink, but you never have your fill. You clothe yourselves, but no one is warm. We know about that here in Green Bay, right? And he who earns wages does so to put them into a bag with what? Holes. Ever felt like you're putting your wages into a bag with holes? I felt like that sometimes. Skip down to verse 9. You looked for much, and behold, it came to little. And when you brought it home, I blew it away. Why, declares the Lord of hosts? Because of my house that lies in ruins, while each of you busies himself with his own house. Therefore, the heavens above you have withheld the dew, and the earth has withheld its produce. Verse 11, and I have called for a drought in the land and the hills, on the grain, the new wine, the oil, on what the ground brings forth, on man and beast, and on all their labors. Wow. Does that strike you like it strikes me? Let me give you the modern translation. You're working your tail off, but you still don't feel like you have anything, right? You're pouring your life into some career, and it just feels empty, and it just feels hollow. You have more than you've ever had before, and you're still not satisfied. You entertain yourself, you go to the games, you go to the movies, you eat out, yet there's still a longing in your heart for something more, for something different. You run and run and run, but feel like you never really get anywhere. You're in this Groundhog Day loop that just keeps going and going and going, and you've got nothing to show for it. So let me just ask you, how's that working for you? How's it going? I mean, are you finding what you're looking for? How's it working for you? Consider your ways. Consider your ways. Think about it. Are you putting your house ahead of God's house? Is there some unfinished task, some unfinished thing that you're supposed to do that you bailed on too early. God led you to do something and you didn't do it. Maybe that's why. Consider your ways. Check out verses 7 and 8. We skipped over them, but let's go back to them. Thus says the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. I love what he says next. This just is very, very loving. The people who are hearing this message are going, we got to build the temple, but it's difficult. We're just giving up, and we're going to build our own houses for a while, and we'll wait for opposition to go down, and then we might build the temple, and they wait 14 years, and all of that is going on. This is so hard, but watch how loving God is. This is what the God who created you and loves you with an everlasting love, this is what he says to them and to you. Verse 8, go up to the hills and bring wood and build the house, that I may take pleasure in it and that I may be glorified, says the Lord. So he says it again, consider your ways in verse 7. Then he basically breaks it down in this loving way. He just breaks it down into 3 simple steps to build the temple. He goes, here's what I want you to do. Go up to the hills. Number 1, go up to the hills. Number 2, bring down the wood. Number 3, build my house. Did you guys catch that? No, that was kind of pretty complex, right? Let's say it again. God goes, go up to the hills. Step 1 completed. Step 2, bring down the wood. Step 2 completed. Step 3, start building my house. You guys got it? What is it? You ready? Go up to the hills, bring down the wood, and build my house. You guys are really smart. You guys nailed that, okay? Yeah, I could just say this a bunch of times. I think I need to say it one more time, don't you? Go up to the hills. And so they're like, well, wait a minute, God. Have you seen that hill? That thing is steep. I don't want to go up the hill. I don't want to. It's too hard. Go up to the hills. Choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Bring down the wood. Oh, no. That's going to be hard. The hill is steep. It's cold. It's going to be like a lot of wood. Okay? And we don't have trucks yet, God. And so we have to put it on our back or on little carts that fall apart. And it's going to take a long time. And it's really, really difficult. If we make it up to the hill without dying and find some wood, it's going to be too hard to bring it down. We can't possibly bring it down. God goes, choose the hard right over the what? Easy wrong. Go up to the hill, bring down the wood. Bring down the wood, come down, build the temple. Step by step. God says step by step, step by step. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. But here's the problem, right? We want steps 4, 5, and 6, right? All of us are like, yeah, that's great, but what's step 4? And what's step 5? And what about step 132? I need to know everything. God, I need to know all of it. I need to know everything. God, I want to know all the details. Who's going to pay for this? And how's it going to happen? And where are we going? And who's going to be there? And what's going to happen? And how is this going to work? We want to know everything. And am I going to get a tax write-off for this or not? I want to know all of the steps, God. What's going to happen? How much time is it going to take? How long do I have to do this? How's it going to work out? Am I going to get my name on a little plaque on the temple? Because if I don't get my name on the temple, I don't know if it's worth it. I need the tax write-off and I need my name on the temple. I need steps 4, 5, and 6. God says, don't worry about steps 4, 5, and 6. Just do 1, 2, and 3. God said his word is a lamp unto our what? Feet. It's a lamp unto our feet, okay? A lamp unto our feet. He didn't say that his word is like the midday sun and it just makes everything visible. Did he say that? He didn't say that. He said, my word is like a lamp, and it's like a lamp that's shining on your what? Feet. So think about that for a moment. You're in the dark, and you've got a lamp, and it's shining, not way ahead. It's not a spotlight. It's a lamp, and it's shining on your feet. What does that mean? It means that you have to take the next step to see the next step, right? It means that it's only right here. And so God may give you enough light to see 3 steps, but he's not giving you enough light to see 10 steps. Are you tracking with me? God says his word is a lamp unto my what? Feet. So I've got 3 steps ahead of me, and as I take those steps, now I'm getting to step 4, 5, and 6. Tracking with me? It's a lamp unto our feet, not like the midday sun. It doesn't show everything. It just shows the next few steps. You see, you have to do what God showed you before he reveals more to you. Sometimes you say, I want the details. God says, you can't handle the details. You can't handle it. I'll give you what you need to know right now to get there, and then I'll give you what you need to know to get over here, and then I'll give you what you need to know to get over here. But I'm not telling you the whole plan because you'll faint. You'll give up. You'll go, I can't possibly accomplish all that. But if I tell you, go to the hills, surely you can do that. If I say, bring down the wood, surely you can accomplish that. I'm not going to give you everything right now. Go up to the hills, bring down the wood, start building my house. I really want to get in better shape, but I don't even know where to start. Get 8 hours of sleep tonight, go to the gym in the morning, and eat a salad a day this next week. Start there, right? Start there. I want to get out of debt, but I don't even know where to start. Well, get some help from somebody who knows what they're talking about. Spend less than you earn and start paying down your debt. Step 1, 2, 3. My marriage isn't very good, and I'm not quite sure what to do about it. I don't know what to do, God. I know you want us to work on our marriage, but it's so big and so hard, and I don't know what to do. I can't possibly fix this. Talk to someone who has a great marriage. Humble yourself and apologize for what you've done. That step's kind of hard, right? Humble yourself and apologize for what you've done, and then start doing the things you did at first. Like date, write love nerds? I don't know. Well, write love. Is nerds that candy that? I want nerds. Okay. Nerds is something else, all right? It's a game. Okay, cool. I was playing that this morning. I wasn't. But anyways, write love nerds to each other. Just do it. Buy flowers, kiss, say ridiculously sappy stuff to each other like you're teenagers. Do what you used to do. What do I do, God? What do I do? It's so big. How can I start? I can't even start. Go up to the hill, bring down the wood, build my house. And listen, this is what it means to walk by the Spirit, right? This is what it means. That's what we're commanded to do as followers of Jesus. We want to walk by sight. I want to know the details. I want God to show me everything. God's not going to show you steps 4, 5, and 6 until you've taken steps 1, 2, and 3. So there's an unfinished assignment, something you were supposed to do and you didn't do it. You backed out, you chickened out, you were too weak, you stopped, you gave up. What do I do now? If you're taking notes, very simply, the way to get started is to quit talking and start doing. Pretty simple, right? The way to get started is to quit talking and to start doing. That's it. Just quit talking, quit thinking about it, quit talking about it. Go up to the hills today. Do something today. Do the next thing God showed you and do it today. Be faithful to God today. Go up to the hills. Get the wood. Start building. Start today. So with Kennedy and Daddy Date, one Sunday afternoon towards the beginning of her second semester in first grade, she's in second grade now, Kennedy was talking to me about it again, and she wasn't whining or complaining or demanding. She was just saying, Daddy, I remember when we used to have Daddy Date, and I loved it, and it was so fun, and like we got to get away from that crazy kid, and it was great, and can we do this again? Like it'd be great if we could do that. I like spending time just you and me. And I knew that this was God. I knew it was a God thing. He wanted me to do this. He wanted me to be engaged in her life in this way. I needed to make it happen, but I started kind of making up all the same excuses in my mind. But then I just felt like the Lord said just very clearly to me, he just said, just take her tomorrow morning before school. Just get up like you do when you're going to the fire stations. You don't go to the fire stations on Mondays. Get up like you do when you're going there. Wake her up. Take her to McDonald's for 30 minutes. Just do it. Do it tomorrow before school. So I told Kennedy, sure, let's do it tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow before school. And she was like pumped, right? She's like, yes, Daddy Date, this is going to be great. And so the next day I got up early. And you should know this about me. I hate mornings. Like 6 a.m. is not, like that's my most likely to murder somebody time. I don't know if you guys have a most likely to murder somebody time in your life, but 6 a.m. every morning or before, that's me. Listen, I know I'm a grown man, and I know some of you who are twice my age or older than me would be like, just get up, and you just need to run, you just need to be a morning person and just grow up. And I get all that, and I want to hear that, like, because maybe it'll get me to get up one day and not want to murder somebody at 6 o'clock. But I'm just telling you, I'm 31 years in, and I hadn't been able to change this thing. I've tried a bunch of times, and I'm just not a morning person. And so generally, I don't try to act like I am. I accepted this fire chaplain thing, going and getting there by 7 o'clock, which to some of you, you're like at work at 4. I'm not talking to you, okay? I'm talking to the normal folk, okay? The normal people who are sleeping at 4 a.m., okay? You're weird, you get up. I'm not talking about that, okay? I'm talking about the normal folk. I accepted this position, this volunteer position, I don't get paid for it, to be a chaplain to the fire department, and it meant I had to be there at 7. And like first day, I regretted it. I woke up and I was like, what time is it? Where is the sun, right? Like I gotta go back to sleep. I mean, I'm not good at it. I've forced myself to do it. Sometimes I'm just not good at it. So I said, okay, we're gonna do this tomorrow morning. It's Sunday, Monday morning, we're gonna get up, and we're gonna do this. In that instance, I chose the hard right over the easy wrong. For me, the hard right over the easy wrong. And I felt the Lord say, the next week, next Sunday, do it again. Just get up. You did it last week. Get up and wake Kennedy up. Wake up, wake Kennedy up, go to McDonald's. That was the process. Get up, wake Kennedy up, go to McDonald's. So I did. I woke her up, I went to McDonald's again. Following week, the Lord said, do it again. Did it twice. Do it 3 times. Get up. Wake Kennedy up. Go to McDonald's. I did it. Before long, Daddy Date was a weekly thing again, right? And all of a sudden, we were doing it every Monday, and it wasn't a question of if we're going to do it. It was just, we're going to do it. Let's make sure we do it. This is what we're supposed to do. In that situation, I chose the hard right over the easy wrong. But it's easy not to do that, right? It's easy to just say, man, hey, I'm great in all these other areas. I'm doing pretty good as a dad. I mean, I got this going on and this going on, and I'm pretty involved, and I'm at home, and I'm doing these things, and I don't need to do this one thing. It's fine if I don't do this one thing. It's no big deal, right? It's easy to say that. It'd be easy, but you know what's right? It's right to spend time with each of your kids one-on-one and to maximize the time that God gives you with them in your house. And listen, the blessing on the other side of this Daddy Date thing was huge. And I immediately felt our relationship just jump up a couple of levels, because it's hard to talk to her, my 7-year-old who's going to be 8 soon. It's hard to talk to her like she needs me to talk to her when there's a crazy 2-year-old just running around. And I'm having to guard baby Hannah from a spontaneous tackle from Joshua, right? It's hard to have a meaningful conversation. Some of you are in toddler room with my son. You know this, right? You know this. We got some clapping going on. It happens every week. Okay, so I'm having a guard. So it's hard to really be engaged in her life and in that conversation when that is going on. Now, some of you are able to do it. More power to you. I can't. Okay, I just can't figure it out. I don't want Hannah to be kicked in the face. So I'm trying to focus on that, all right? And it's hard to talk to Kennedy during that time. But for 30 minutes every Monday before school, we just talk with no distractions. She tells me what's going on in her life, and I have an easy chance to speak into her heart, tell her I love her, I'm proud of her, talk to her about God, life, My Little Ponies, The fact that she can't date until she's 30. Whatever, all right? We just talk about a lot of things. But here's the deal. You have no idea what the blessings of God are on the other side of obedience. You have no idea. Ultimately, you do what God calls you to do. So you're supposed to reach out to someone that hurts you. What if they don't respond well? Listen, you're not responsible for the outcome. You're just responsible for obedience, right? That's it. You just do what God called you to do. You're not responsible for the outcome. Outcome is God's responsibility. Obedience is yours. You tracking with me? Maybe you've got a sin that's been plaguing you, and you're keeping it a secret, and it's easy to keep it a secret. It's hard and right to confess and to ask God for help. Maybe you're playing fake happy marriage, and you've got everybody around you thinking that your marriage is great, and really it's not. It's easy to keep faking. It's hard and it's right to ask for help. We really need counseling. It's hard and it's right. Maybe God prompted you at some point to serve in the church and make a difference for God, and you're like, man, is that God or is it Satan trying to convince me to make a difference? This is a hard decision. Is that God or is it Satan doing that to me? Get behind me, Satan. Don't use me to make a difference. Of course that's God, right? What are you going to do? Choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Choose the hard right over the easy wrong. And don't leave this building today without finding a leader and saying, sign me up. Some of you, you know you need Christian community. You need it. You need it. You need it. You will not do well alone. You thought about it. You thought about it. Is God leading me to do life with other believers in a meaningful way? It's just a tough decision, right? Of course it's God. Of course it's God leading you into an Acts 2 fellowship, because life is better together when we do it gathered around God's word, right? It's better if you do life together. If there's some unfinished assignment, don't make God raise up a Haggai in your life to call you back. Don't make God say this person like he said those people or these people to Haggai, because you're his child. My child is going to be obedient now, right now. Now's the time. So whenever God gives us an assignment, we're going to be obedient. Outcome is God's responsibility. Obedience is ours. We're going to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. And maybe God's going to speak to some of you today and tell you the steps you need to take. I just want to challenge you. Do something today. Take the first step today. Do something today. Go up to the hills. Do it today. But here's my prayer for you today. May the Lord reveal to you where you've given up on something he's called you to do. May you not quit in the face of adversity, but instead choose the hard right over the easy wrong. And may now be the time, and today be the day that you choose God above yourself and step out in faith to follow his will for your life. God bless you guys. Thanks for hanging with me today.
Thank you for listening to this audio message by Green Bay First. Pastors and speakers, you're welcome to copy this in your own sermons. Just don't sell it for monetary gain as your own. Feel free to make copies of this audio message file to give to others, but when doing so, please copy it in its entirety as it is presented here. Again, thank you for listening, and we pray that God's Spirit use this message to draw you closer to Christ.